After my son's death, his wife texted, "Just 12 weeks until I get $15 million." The text message hit me like a punch to the gut. I was sitting in Kyle's hospital room, and he'd fallen asleep with his laptop still open. That's when I saw it on the screen. A message from my daughter-in-law Amanda to someone named Brett. "Just 12 more weeks and the cancer will finish our job. Then I'll have $15 million and we can finally be together without that stubborn old man interfering." My son was dying, and his wife was counting down the days. I'm Trevor Mitchell, 62 years old, and this is how I found out my daughter-in-law was planning to cash in on my son's death. Let me back up a bit. Kyle had been fighting brain cancer for 14 months. I'd been there through every chemo session, every doctor visit, every sleepless night when the pain got too bad. Amanda? She always seemed to have somewhere else to be. Work meetings, yoga classes, girls' nights out. I figured grief hits people differently, you know? Some people deal with it by staying busy. I was wrong. The call came at 6:47 a.m. on October 23rd. I'd been up since 5:30 anyway. Retirement doesn't cure the habit of early mornings after 35 years as a CFO. The hospice nurse's voice was gentle but direct. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm sorry to tell you that Kyle passed away peacefully at 6:15 this morning. Was anyone with him? His wife was here. She's handling the arrangements. I threw on clothes and drove straight there. When I arrived, Amanda's car was already gone. The hospice coordinator met me at the front desk. Your daughter-in-law left about an hour ago with the funeral home people. She said she'd call you with details an hour ago. Kyle had been dead for 2 hours, and Amanda couldn't wait to get out of there. I went to his room anyway, completely cleaned out. His business magazines, the photos I'd brought, his favorite coffee mug, everything gone. Like he'd never been there. My phone buzzed, text from Amanda, funeral Saturday, 11 a.m. Lakeview Memorial. Details to follow. No, I'm sorry for your loss. No, Kyle loved you, just logistics. I called her, voicemail, called again, same thing. So I drove to their house in Back Bay. Kyle had designed it himself, this beautiful modern place with huge windows overlooking the Charles River. The electronic gate that always recognized my car, locked. I hit the intercom button. "Trevor, this isn't a good time," Amanda's voice crackled through. "Amanda, I need to see you. We need to talk about Kyle. He's gone, Trevor. Cancer got him. The funeral's Saturday. Let me in. I need to be in his house. The place is a mess. I'm getting it ready for people to come by. Saturday, okay? Click. End of conversation." I sat there staring at that gate, feeling something twist in my gut. This wasn't grief. This was something else entirely. I called Shane Murphy, our family lawyer for the past 20 years. Guy helped Kyle set up his architecture firm, handled our family stuff. "Trevor, I heard. I'm so sorry, man. Shane, something's not right. Amanda's acting weird. She locked me out of the house, won't take my calls. It's like she was waiting for Kyle to die." Long pause. "Can you come to my office? I think we need to talk." The next 5 days were hell. I stayed home, surrounded by pictures of Kyle. Kyle at 5 with his first Lego building. Kyle at 15 winning some state architecture contest. Kyle at 25 opening Mitchell Architecture Design. Yeah, he named the company after our family, not hers. More on that later. Amanda called exactly once. Left a voicemail with funeral details. No other contact. Saturday morning came gray and cold. I put on my black suit, same one I wore to my wife Patricia's funeral 5 years back, and headed to the chapel. Place was packed. Kyle had made a name for himself in Boston architecture. Awards, magazine features, the works. All these people showed up to pay respects. Amanda stood up front in an expensive black dress, playing the grieving widow perfectly, accepting hugs, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. Real professional job. I watched her with this tall guy I didn't recognize. The way she touched his arm, how he leaned in close when he whispered to her. Something about it bothered me. Kyle's best friend Nicole found me first. "Trevor, I'm so sorry. Kyle talked about you all the time. Thanks, Nicole. This whole thing feels surreal." Amanda arranged everything without even asking what Kyle might have wanted. Nicole's face changed. "Trevor, there's something you should know. Kyle was planning to leave her." My heart stopped. "What?" "About a month ago, he told me he'd found a divorce lawyer. He said Amanda was up to something, but he wouldn't tell me what. He was gathering evidence before he filed. Before I could ask more questions, Amanda appeared next to us like she'd been listening. Trevor, no hug, no comfort, just stood there with her arms crossed. I'd appreciate if you didn't make a scene today. I'm not making a scene, just saying goodbye to my son. Good. Because I've got enough to deal with without you stirring up drama. She walked away before I could respond. The service started. Amanda got up to speak, and I watched her put on a performance that should have won an Oscar. Talked about how much she loved Kyle, how they built everything together, how devoted she was. Complete garbage. I knew because I'd been there. When Kyle was throwing up from chemo, where was Amanda, working late? When he couldn't sleep because of the pain, who sat with him? Me, not her. But she stood up there crying real tears, talking about their beautiful partnership, and how Kyle's final words were about taking care of their shared dreams. Kyle never talked like that, and he sure as hell never called Amanda sweetheart like she claimed. After the service, people gathered for coffee and sandwiches. I was standing by the window when this older guy approached me. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm Jordan Walsh, Sr., architect at Kyle's firm. Your son was something special. Real talent, great guy to work for. Thank you, Jordan. Shame Amanda's planning to sell the company. Kyle would have hated that. He loved that place like it was his baby." My blood went cold. "She's selling?" That's what she told us today. Says she can't run an architecture firm and her marketing job at the same time. Some developer's going to buy us out, probably lay off half the staff within 6 months. I thanked Jordan and walked outside. Didn't care that it was raining. I needed air. Amanda was going to destroy everything Kyle built. Sell his company, fire his people, erase his legacy. And she was treating me like some inconvenient old man who needed to stay out of her way. I called Shane from the parking lot. "Shane, what's in Kyle's will?" Amanda says everything goes to her. Will readings tomorrow night, 6 p.m. at Kyle's house. Amanda requested it there. Am I named in it? Trevor, just be there tomorrow. That's all I can say. Next evening, I showed up at Kyle's house at 5:45. Gate was open this time. Amanda's BMW was there, along with Shane's Mercedes and a couple of other cars. I walked into that beautiful living room Kyle designed. Every detail perfect. The way light hit the windows, how the spaces flowed together. His masterpiece. Amanda was there with 4 other people I didn't know. Everyone sitting around Kyle's desk, where Shane had papers spread out. Trevor. Amanda barely looked up. Shane said, "You needed to be here." Shane cleared his throat. "Okay, everyone's here. I'm Shane Murphy, representing Kyle Mitchell's estate. This will was executed on September 20th, 2024, properly witnessed according to Massachusetts law. September 20th. Just 5 weeks before Kyle died." Shane opened the envelope and pulled out several pages. Then he looked straight at Amanda. "Mrs. Parker, this might surprise you, but you're not named in this will." Dead silence. You could hear people breathing. Amanda laughed, but it sounded forced. "That's impossible. I'm his wife. We have community property." Kyle filed for divorce on September 18th. The filing supersedes community property law. Amanda's face went white as paper. "He never filed for divorce. I have the paperwork right here. Filed with Suffolk County Court. You were served notice on September 22nd at your office." Amanda shot up so fast her chair fell over. "This is fraud. You're lying. Kyle would never—" "Mrs. Parker, please sit down. If you want to contest this, that's your right. But I need to read the will." Amanda stayed standing, shaking like a leaf. Shane kept reading. "I, Kyle Mitchell, being of sound mind, leave my entire estate to my father, Trevor Mitchell. This includes Mitchell Architecture Design, all property, all accounts, everything. It's to be held in trust for the Kyle Mitchell Foundation for Emerging Architects." I couldn't process it, couldn't believe what I was hearing. Amanda found her voice. "This is insane. He was dying, drugged up, out of his mind. His father manipulated him. Kyle was examined by his doctor on September 19th, Shane said calmly. Medical records show he was completely coherent. 2 independent witnesses signed this will. It's legally solid. I'll destroy you in court," Amanda pointed at me, her mask completely off now. "I'll prove you poisoned his mind against me. I'll tie this up for years until you're broke." Shane's voice got hard. "Mrs. Parker, if you threaten anyone in this room again, I'm calling security. Sit down or leave." Amanda grabbed her purse and stormed out. "You haven't won anything, old man. I'll see you in court." The door slammed behind her. Through the window, I watched her peel out of the driveway. Shane turned to the others, Kyle's employees and business partners. "The company's not being sold. It'll continue under new management with Trevor as trustee." The relief on their faces was obvious. Jordan Walsh spoke up. "Mr. Mitchell, Kyle talked about you all the time. Said you taught him everything about running a business. We're honored to work with you." After everyone left, Shane and I sat alone in Kyle's living room. "Shane, I don't understand. When did Kyle file for divorce? Why didn't he tell me?" Shane handed me a folder. "Kyle came to see me on September 15th. He was weak, could barely walk, but his mind was sharp. Said he'd caught Amanda cheating and stealing from the company, wanted to divorce her and protect his assets before he died." I opened the folder. Divorce petition, filed September 18th. Notice of service sent to Amanda's marketing firm on September 22nd. She knew. She'd known Kyle was divorcing her, and she never said a word. Did he have proof? About the cheating and the stealing? Shane nodded. He said he had evidence in his office safe, personal safe, separate from company files. He was planning to gather everything before confronting her, but then his health went downhill fast. So we don't know who she was cheating with or how much she took. Not yet. But Kyle was thorough. If he said he had evidence, it's there. We just need to find it. I drove home through the rain, head spinning. Kyle had known about Amanda's betrayal. He'd tried to protect what he built, managed to file for divorce and change his will before he died. But the fight wasn't over. Amanda was going to contest this will, just like she promised. She'd drag me through court, claim Kyle was mentally incompetent, try to paint me as some manipulative old man. Fine. Let her try. I'd spent 35 years as a CFO dealing with hostile takeovers and corporate fraud investigations. I knew how to be patient, how to dig through financial records, how to build a case. Amanda made one big mistake. She underestimated me, dismissed me as just some retired guy living on a pension who couldn't possibly threaten her. She had no idea what she'd started. Next morning, I called Shane. "I want to bring in Rachel Turner, the estate litigation specialist. She's expensive, Trevor. I don't care. Amanda's going to fight dirty. I want the best." We met at Shane's office that afternoon. Rachel was in her 40s, sharp eyes, expensive suit. She looked like someone who didn't lose often. "Mr. Mitchell, I've reviewed the preliminary documents. Amanda Parker's going to claim undue influence, mental incompetence, anything to invalidate that will. But we have advantages. The divorce filing shows Kyle knew something was wrong. Medical records prove he was mentally sharp. Independent witnesses signed the will. We're in good shape. What about the evidence Kyle mentioned?" "That's priority one," Shane said. "We need access to his office safe. As a state executor, you have legal authority to examine company property." "There's a problem," I said. "Kyle told me it's a combination lock, not digital. Only he knew the numbers." Rachel frowned. "That's trickier. We'll need a court order to have it open professionally." 3 days later, we got the order. I met Shane and Rachel at Mitchell Architecture Design in the Seaport District. Kyle had renovated the whole building himself. Exposed brick, high ceilings, lots of natural light. His personal office was on the 3rd floor with a view of Boston Harbor. Standing in that space where Kyle had created so much, I felt him everywhere. His drafting table, his awards on the wall, photos of buildings he'd designed. Shane found the safe behind a framed blueprint of Kyle's first big project. Standard combination lock built into the wall. The court-approved locksmith worked for about 20 minutes before the door swung open. 3 folders inside, labeled in Kyle's neat handwriting. First folder, bank statements. Mitchell Architecture Design, accounts with transfers highlighted in yellow. $1.2 million moved to accounts I didn't recognize over 18 months. Each transfer labeled as consulting fees or equipment purchases, but Kyle had made notes in the margins. No consultant contract. No equipment delivered. Second folder, photographs. Amanda with a tall, dark-haired man, kissing in a parking garage. More photos of them at restaurants, holding hands, going into an apartment building. The guy looked familiar somehow. Third folder, printed text messages. My hands shook as I read them. Amanda to Brett. "Kyle's getting worse. Doctor says maybe 12 more weeks. Then we're free." Brett to Amanda. 12 weeks feels forever. I hate sneaking around. Amanda to Brett. Once he's gone, I'll have everything. The business is worth $15 million, maybe more. We can go anywhere, do anything. Just be patient. Brett to Amanda. What about his father? You said he's always interfering. Amanda to Brett. Trevor's a retired CFO on a pension. He's powerless. I'll handle him. Once I inherit, he'll have no say in anything. I had to sit down. Rachel took the folder from me gently. This is everything we need, she said. Proves knowledge of Kyle's timeline, financial theft, adultery during marriage. In Massachusetts, adultery affects inheritance rights. Combined with the divorce filing, Amanda's claim becomes almost impossible. Who's Brett? I asked. Shane was already on his laptop. Brett Morrison, partner at Morrison and Associates downtown. Corporate law, estate planning. We spent the next week building our case. Rachel filed our response to Amanda's will contest, including Kyle's divorce filing, medical records, witness statements from his doctor and business partners. But we held back the smoking gun evidence. Rachel's strategy was to let Amanda commit to her story first, then destroy it with proof she didn't know we had. The preliminary hearing was November 15th. Night before, Shane called me. Trevor, something interesting happened. Brett Morrison wants to talk. We met him at Shane's office next morning. Brett was 42, well-dressed, but he looked like he hadn't slept in days. Mr. Mitchell, I need you to understand something, he started. I'm not a bad person. I didn't. And no, Kyle was as sick as he was. Amanda told me they were separated, practically divorced. She said Kyle wanted out, not her. When did you learn the truth? About 2 months ago. I went to their house to surprise her. Kyle answered the door. His voice cracked. He was so thin, so weak, and when he saw me, he knew. I could see it in his eyes. That's when I realized Amanda had been lying about everything. Why didn't you end it then? I tried, but Amanda convinced me to wait. Said Kyle was dying anyway, that breaking up would just upset him more in his final days. She made it sound compassionate, like we were protecting him. And after he died? Brett's face hardened. She changed completely. Started talking about selling the business, moving to California. When I asked about going public with our relationship, she laughed. Said I'd served my purpose and she didn't need complications anymore. That's when I realized she'd been using me. Rachel leaned forward. Brett, do you still have your text messages with Amanda? Every single one. I haven't deleted anything. Would you testify if needed? He nodded. She manipulated both of us, you and me. Kyle didn't deserve what she did to him. The hearing next day was supposed to be routine, just setting schedules and procedures. But when Amanda's lawyer stood up to present their case, Rachel made her move. Your Honor, before we proceed, I'd like to enter evidence that fundamentally changes this case. Judge Morrison raised an eyebrow. This is a preliminary hearing, Counselor. I understand, Your Honor, but this evidence directly contradicts Mrs. Parker's claims and needs to be on record. It includes proof of adultery, financial exploitation, and Mrs. Parker's knowledge of the divorce filing. Amanda's lawyer jumped up. Objection! We haven't seen this evidence. The evidence just came to light, Rachel said smoothly. Given Mrs. Parker's claims that she was a devoted wife, I believe her credibility is relevant. Judge Morrison considered. I'll allow it. This better be good, Ms. Turner. Rachel approached the bench with our folders. As the judge read through them, I watched Amanda's face go from confused to panicked as she realized what we had. Your Honor, Rachel said, these text messages show Mrs. Parker discussing her husband's death timeline with her lover. She specifically told him they only needed to wait 12 more weeks for the cancer to finish. She also called Mr. Mitchell powerless and claimed she'd handle him after inheriting. Judge Morrison's expression got cold as ice. Mrs. Parker, you're claiming your husband was manipulated by his father, but this evidence suggests you were having an affair while your husband was dying, stealing from his business, and planning to take everything without honoring his legacy. Care to explain? Amanda stood up, shaking. Those messages are out of context. Brett was just a friend helping me through a difficult time. Kyle and I had problems, but you told your lover to be patient for 12 more weeks until your husband died, the judge interrupted. You called your father-in-law powerless. This court doesn't tolerate people who exploit dying spouses. Rachel pressed on. Your Honor, we also have financial evidence. Mrs. Parker transferred $1.2 million from company accounts over 18 months. Each transfer disguised as business expenses, but no services were provided. Kyle discovered this theft and filed for divorce on September 18th. He changed his will specifically to prevent Mrs. Parker from benefiting from her own fraud. "I didn't steal anything," Amanda's voice got shrill. "That business was half mine." "Your husband filed for divorce before his death," Judge Morrison said coldly. "That dissolves any property claims, and fraud invalidates inheritance rights regardless." She looked at Amanda's lawyer. "Counselor, I suggest you advise your client about continuing this litigation." The recess lasted 30 minutes. Through the courthouse window, I watched Amanda and her lawyer in what looked like a heated argument. His hands were waving around, probably explaining how screwed she was. When court came back in session, Amanda's lawyer stood up, looking like a man who would rather be anywhere else. "Your Honor, my client wishes to withdraw her contest to the will. She acknowledges that grief affected her judgment, and she spoke hastily. She's prepared to accept the will as written and return all disputed funds." "In exchange for what?" Judge Morrison asked. "Mr. Mitchell, agreeing not to pursue criminal charges for the financial irregularities." The judge looked at me. "Mr. Mitchell, this is your decision." I stood up slowly. For 5 weeks, I'd grieved my son while watching his wife fake her way through being a widow. She'd locked me out of his house, dismissed me like some powerless old man, threatened to destroy me in court. Amanda had literally counted down the days until my son died. She'd stolen his money, cheated on him while he was dying, and planned to sell off everything he'd built. But taking her to criminal court would mean years of trials, appeals, Kyle's name dragged through the mud. Years I didn't want to spend thinking about her. "I accept," I said. "But she returns every penny she stole, signs a release giving up all claims, and never contacts me or anyone at Mitchell Architecture Design again." "Agreed," her lawyer said quickly. Judge Morrison signed the order. "Mrs. Parker, you're lucky Mr. Mitchell is more gracious than you deserve. This court upholds the will completely. All assets go to Trevor Mitchell as trustee. You'll return $1.2 million within 30 days. If you violate any part of this agreement, the restraining order Mr. Mitchell is filing goes into effect immediately." Amanda didn't look at me as she left, just walked out with her lawyer trailing behind, looking relieved to be done with a case he never should have taken. Rachel patted my arm. "You did it, Trevor. Kyle's legacy is protected." That afternoon, I went to Mitchell Architecture Design. The whole staff had gathered in the main studio, worried about their jobs. I stood in front of these talented people Kyle had hired and trained. "Look, I'm not an architect," I started. "I was a CFO for 35 years. I don't know the technical side of what you do, but I know what Kyle valued: excellence, integrity, innovation. He built this firm to create beautiful spaces that improve people's lives. That's not changing." I promoted Jordan Walsh to managing director, set up a board with Kyle's longtime employees, and we started planning the Kyle Mitchell Foundation for Emerging Architects, scholarships and grants for young people entering the field. The foundation launched on Kyle's birthday, March 15th. We held the ceremony in the lobby of the downtown tower he'd designed, his signature project. Nicole spoke about Kyle's vision. Jordan presented the first scholarships to 3 MIT architecture students. When my turn came, I looked out at the crowd of Kyle's friends, colleagues, and clients. "My son died too young," I said. "He had so much more he wanted to create, but what he accomplished in 38 years was extraordinary. This foundation makes sure his legacy continues, that other young architects get the opportunities he fought for." After the ceremony, I drove to Lakeview Memorial. Kyle's grave sits on a hillside overlooking Boston Harbor, with a view of the skyline he helped shape. Simple granite headstone with his name, dates, and one line: "He built beauty into the world. I put fresh flowers at the base. Same routine every Sunday since he died." "We did it, son," I said quietly. "Your firm's safe. Foundation's up and running." Amanda got nothing except the knowledge that she lost everything by being greedy. I touched the cold stone. "Miss you every day, but I promise I'll protect what you built. Your name's going to mean something for generations." March wind was still cold, but you could feel spring coming. New growth after the long winter. I walked back to my car, passing other graves with their own stories. My phone buzzed. Text from Rachel. "Foundation paperwork filed. First grants approved. Well done, Trevor. I started the car and headed home, watching Boston's skyline in my rearview mirror. Somewhere in that cluster of buildings was Kyle's tower, his mark on the city. Amanda had called me powerless. Some retired CFO who couldn't possibly challenge her. She was wrong about everything. I'm 62 years old. Lost my wife 5 years ago, my son last year. Just fought the hardest battle of my life against a woman who betrayed everything decent. And I won. Not just in court. I won by protecting what mattered, by honoring Kyle's vision, by turning grief into something useful. 3 months later, I got a call from Jordan Walsh. Trevor, you need to see this. He met me at the office with a portfolio of drawings. These are from Sarah Chong, one of our scholarship recipients. She's designing low-income housing that's actually beautiful. Says Kyle's work inspired her to prove that good design shouldn't be just for rich people. I flipped through the drawings. Innovative, practical, gorgeous. Exactly the kind of thing Kyle would have loved. She wants to do her internship here next summer, Jordan said. Says she wants to learn from the firm that Kyle built, make it happen. That night, I called my old CFO buddy Mike Peterson. We'd worked together for 15 years before he retired to Florida. Trevor, how's retirement treating you? Busier than I expected. You remember Kyle's architecture firm? Course I do. You were so proud of that kid. Well, I'm running it now. Long story, but Amanda tried to steal everything after Kyle died. Had to take her to court. Jesus, you okay? Better than okay. We're expanding, starting a foundation. Turns out all those years watching balance sheets and managing budgets actually prepared me for something. That's great, man. You found your purpose. After we hung up, I sat in Kyle's study, my study now, looking at the plans for our new building. The foundation was growing faster than expected. We'd already approved grants for 12 students, funded 3 affordable housing projects, sponsored a design competition for sustainable architecture. Kyle's vision was alive and spreading. My phone rang. Unknown number. Is this Trevor Mitchell? Yeah. Mr. Mitchell, this is David Park from Portland. My daughter just got accepted to architecture school on one of your foundation scholarships. I wanted to thank you personally. That's great. What's her name? Lisa Park. She's been drawing buildings since she was 5, but we couldn't afford the tuition. This scholarship changes everything for our family. After he hung up, I walked out onto the balcony. Boston lights stretched out below, including the tower Kyle designed. In a few years, there'd be more buildings designed by kids who got their start because of Kyle's foundation. That was worth everything. 6 months later, I was sitting in my office when Jordan knocked on the door. Trevor, there's someone here to see you. Says it's important. A young woman walked in, maybe 25, nervous but determined. Mr. Mitchell, I'm Jessica Torres. I work for the Boston Globe. I've been investigating financial fraud in small businesses, and your case with Amanda Parker came up. I gestured to a chair. What about it? Well, it turns out Amanda didn't stop after your court case. She's been running the same scam on other people. Found a 70-year-old widower in Cambridge. Told him she was a financial advisor. Took him for $200,000 before his daughter caught on. Is he pressing charges? That's the thing. He died of a heart attack last month. His daughter thinks the stress of losing his savings contributed to it. She's trying to build a case, but Amanda's gotten smarter about covering her tracks. I leaned back in my chair. What do you want from me? The daughter? Helen Morrison wants to talk to you. She thinks your court records might help prove a pattern of behavior. I met Helen Morrison the next day at a coffee shop in Harvard Square. She was about my age, gray-haired, looked tired. Mr. Mitchell, thank you for meeting me. I know this is painful to discuss. Call me Trevor. What happened to your father? Dad was lonely after Mom died. Amanda Parker showed up at his door one day. Said she was starting an investment firm, looking for private clients. She seemed so professional, so caring. Within 3 months, she'd convinced him to move his retirement savings into her high-yield accounts. How much? Everything. $200,000. When I found out, I confronted her. She had all these official-looking documents, claimed the investments were temporarily illiquid due to market conditions, said he'd get everything back plus 15% within 6 months. But there were no real investments. Nothing. She'd put the money in her personal accounts, used it to buy a condo in Florida. When I threatened to call the police, she disappeared overnight. Dad was devastated. Blamed himself, said he should have known better. The stress of it, his heart just gave out. I studied her face. Helen, I'll help however I can. What do you need? The prosecutor says our evidence isn't strong enough alone, but if we can show Amanda did this before, to your son, she didn't steal from Kyle directly. She stole from his company while he was dying. But it's the same pattern, targeting vulnerable people, gaining their trust, then robbing them when they can't fight back. I called Rachel Turner that afternoon. Rachel, hypothetical question. Could our Amanda Parker evidence be used in a different criminal case? Depends. What kind of case? I explained about Helen Morrison's father. Rachel was quiet for a long moment. Trevor, this is interesting. The evidence we have shows Amanda's methods, her psychology. If she used the same tactics on this elderly man, it could establish a pattern. I'd need to review the new case details. But yes, our court records could be relevant. What would that mean for me? You'd probably have to testify. Are you okay with that? I thought about Kyle, about the nights I'd sat with him while Amanda was out working late, probably planning her next move, about the relief on his employees' faces when they learned their jobs were safe. Yeah, I'm okay with that. The trial took place 8 months later. I testified about Amanda's behavior during Kyle's illness, the text messages, the financial theft. The prosecutor used our evidence to show Amanda's pattern of targeting vulnerable people. Amanda's defense lawyer tried to paint me as a bitter father-in-law seeking revenge, but the financial records spoke for themselves. $1.2 million stolen from Kyle's company, $200,000 from Helen's father. Same methods, same lies, same cold calculation. The jury convicted Amanda on all counts, 15 years for elder abuse, financial, exploitation, and fraud. After the sentencing, Helen Morrison found me in the courthouse hallway. Trevor, I can't thank you enough. Dad would have wanted justice. We both lost family to her greed. Had to make it count for something. That evening, I drove to Kyle's grave. The flowers I'd left the week before were still fresh. Early April, just starting to warm up. Got some news, son, I said, settling into my usual spot on the bench nearby. Amanda's going to prison for 15 years. Turns out she didn't stop with us. Found another victim, an old man who died from the stress of losing everything. But we got her. A jogger ran past on the path below. Life going on like it should. Foundation's doing great. We've got 25 scholarship kids now, funded 8 affordable housing projects. Jordan's talking about opening a second office in Providence. Your legacy's growing bigger than you probably imagined. I stood up, touched the headstone. Miss you every day, but I'm proud of what we built. Together, what we're still building. Driving home, I thought about the call I'd gotten that morning. MIT wanted to offer a master class on sustainable architecture, sponsored by the Kyle Mitchell Foundation. They'd asked me to speak about Kyle's vision, how the foundation carried it forward. Me speaking at MIT. Kyle would have gotten a kick out of that. At home, I poured myself a bourbon and sat in Kyle's study. My study now, but I'd kept his drafting table, his awards, his photos, reminders of what we were protecting. My phone rang. Jordan Walsh. Trevor, you sitting down? Yeah. What's up? Remember Sarah Chang, our first scholarship recipient? The housing project designer. Sure. She just won the Young Architect Award from the American Institute of Architects for affordable housing design. In her acceptance speech, she credited Kyle and the foundation for making her career possible. That's fantastic. Gets better. The publicity's brought in 12 new donors. We can fund 40 scholarships next year instead of 25. After we hung up, I walked out onto the balcony. Boston spread out below, lights twinkling in the darkness. Kyle's tower stood tall among them, solid and permanent. In 5 years, there'd be dozens of buildings designed by kids who got their start because Kyle died, and I refused to let Amanda destroy what he'd built. The phone rang again. This time, it was Nicole Stevens. Trevor, did you see the Globe article about the foundation? No, what article? Front page of the Metro section. From tragedy to triumph, how one father turned loss into legacy. It's beautiful. They interviewed 3 of the scholarship recipients, talked about Kyle's vision, what you've accomplished. I didn't accomplish anything. Kyle did the hard work. You protected it. You made sure it survived and grew. That matters. After she hung up, I sat quietly for a while, thinking about the past 2 years. Started with the worst day of my life, reading that text message about Amanda counting down Kyle's death. But it led to something good, something lasting. Amanda had called me powerless, a retired CFO who couldn't possibly stand in her way. Turned out she was wrong about that too. Kyle's legacy wasn't just safe, it was thriving. And I wasn't just a grieving father anymore. I was the guardian of something bigger than both of us. That was worth everything we'd been through. Sometimes the people who underestimate you give you the biggest advantage. Amanda thought being 62 and retired made me weak, but those 35 years as a CFO taught me exactly how to hunt down financial fraud and build an airtight legal case.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.